professor of real estate. Next to me is Jason Bates. Today's topic is podcasting. I was sitting there thinking about this the other day, going, I'm starting my own podcast very soon, but my podcast is related to realtors and for realtors. I was starting to wonder, okay, that's great, but should realtors be podcasting? Should realtors be out there trying to market their niche in this environment? And if so, what should they be talking about? So, Jason's been doing this for a while. He's been with me forever. So we're going to kind of tackle that question today. And Jason, take it away.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Jason Bates. I host a podcast called Valley of the Sun Real Estate Show, Phoenix, Arizona. And it's a show that's about real estate and everything that you need to know when it comes to your real estate needs right here in the Valley of the Sun, Phoenix, Arizona. And this is a subject for me, Justin, that is just, I think the obvious answer is yes. However, there are some things that you need to consider when doing a podcast.
Just remember, realtors can break anything.
Right. This is the tough part about podcasting, because podcasting, we have to think of podcasting as a radio show, as your own show. And there's a lot of work that goes into it, the formatting of it, the editing of it, the how you want it to sound, how you want it to look, where you want it to play. There's all kinds of different things to consider when looking at a podcast. So again, the obvious answer is yes. I believe that realtors should be on a podcast. I think it's a media platform that is growing, and it's going to continue to grow as it becomes more and more accessible to everyday people, if you will, not so techie people. And I think that podcasting really, here's the downside on podcasting. There's a lot of podcasts out there that are outdated. And it gets frustrating as a consumer when you search in iTunes or wherever you're looking for your podcast and trying to get podcasting. When you come upon a podcast that is 10 years old and the audio quality is horrible, that then can turn off people to podcasting. And so
I guess that's the first thing to go at. Okay, so you say yes to podcasting. I'm about 50-50 with it.
Yep.
For the most part, I think podcasting is a great platform for giving out information. We have to be a giving society, especially from a business perspective. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if realtors have that instinct, to be completely honest with you. They want to give you something, they want something in return, which I don't think is bad either, but it's a different philosophy in this arena. So my question is this. Okay, so say we go along your avenue, which I tend to be leaning that way more than not. You said you have to have audio. So what is the better thing to have right now? Would it be content or audio? If your content's strong and your audio sucks, can you get away with it? If your content sucks, your audio is great, are you going to be able to survive? Or does it have to be both? I mean, what is your take on that arena?
Well, content is king, really. I mean, you've got to have something of value to say. Now, audio quality is equally as important, although you can't have such audio where it hurts your ears bad and get away with it, even if your content is really good. But you can have like phone conversation kind of audio quality and get away with that to a degree. As your show develops, your audio quality needs to get better. That's just the way it is. So and that's my opinion. I listened to my first podcast. My audio quality was horrible when I look at today, what I have today. So, and I got away with it. But I was trying to speak to, and this is something that I think that we need to kind of visit here a little bit, because the audio quality, and when you start getting into content is king, and you got to know your audience in order to create the content. So if you're going after a podcast as a realtor and you want to, share your experiences on how you generated leads, or whatever it is that you're trying to portray, know your audience before you actually create the content. So have the idea. Like for me, for example, my audience was everybody who wanted to purchase a home, who lives here in Phoenix, Arizona, or even current homeowners who purchase homes. So my subject matter is very broad. Where if I had a podcast that interviewed successful realtors, then my content is about successful realtors and what makes them successful. So It just depends on the content that you want to have, and the audience you want to have will help determine, I guess, your content. I'm making sense. I hope I'm not speaking in circles here on that.
No. I understand. That's what you hear a lot of experts say. I listen to a lot of, you've referenced them. I listen to them. You read Daniel J. Lewis. You listen to David Jackson.
Yeah.
What's the other guy's name? I just went blank on him. The podcast Answer Man.
I don't listen to him too often. I have on occasion, but not. I don't listen to him regularly. Here's the thing: podcasting. When people go and get a podcast, they either want entertainment or they want information. So, if you're in that information category, then have the information. If you're in the entertainment category, then have the entertainment. So that's where the content is critical. The audio you can record with very inexpensive microphones and get away with it. The lavalier microphone. You could record with that. You could record a podcast with that and get away with it. Here on Blab, audio quality for some people, speaking to computer as audio quality is not too bad. You can get away with that. As your show develops, though, I think so should your audio quality to an extent where it sounds a little more professional and you get a little bit more practice at your delivery, your outline, how you're going to approach things, that sort of stuff. That's where the audio quality probably is a little bit of a secondary to the content. But you can't have the content unless you know what you're going after. What is the end goal for the podcast? What exactly are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to achieve branding? And if you're trying to achieve branding, do you brand yourself with other realtors, or are you trying to brand yourself with consumers? And those are tricky things that you have to answer. And I always suggest people starting out a podcast, get 5 podcast ideas in your head, write them down, and then see if you can build upon those episodes. And people always podcast, then you might be in trouble with who you're going after. Right?
Well, yeah, and I think you make a great point because everyone says it, and I'll be honest with you, it's part of the thing I struggle with the most, and sometimes I think I might not be tight enough in my focus. Is they call it an avatar. Right. So you got to have that avatar. You got to have that ideal person that when you're talking here on the podcast, you are talking to every day. Right. I do have a couple of those guys in my head. So I know when I'm having conversations with you or I'm having conversations on my own podcast that I'm building, that, that's who's in my head and that's who I'm picturing, because I'm picturing them driving in the car and I'm answering their question that has been eaten at them for 5 weeks.
Right.
And that's a tough thing to do, right? Because sometimes it might be too general. If it's too general, you're going to lose people. If it's too specific, you might not get enough.
Right.
Most people will argue, though, that there's no such thing as too specific. In real estate, it might be, because unless you are trying to hit everybody in the country with one particular niche, you may not get enough. And again, there's not probably many agents that are actually licensed in all 52 states.
Right.
So, you got to kind of figure out how that works inside that arena. So, yes, I agree completely. I think that is, and we've talked about the mics before. We've talked about the technology behind that. There is all sorts of ways to get very inexpensive equipment and sound legible and great, and maybe not echoey and all that stuff, right? That becomes something that you can easily do inside there with very little cost.
Yeah.
And again, you might have it already just with the gear that you have that you bought, phones, whatever.
Right. Well,
I'm sorry.
Thing too, that, when we talk about real estate agents and whether or not they should be podcasting, look at yourself and see whether or not you have, 'cause there is a certain talent level, and that talent level is something that can be developed, of course. But I hear a lot of agents, like when I first started my podcast, I did not want my podcast about mortgages, right? Mortgages, that's boring. Let's face it. Mortgages are boring and they're complicated in a lot of respects. Now, do people want to hear about that on occasion? Of course they do. But the sexy part about real estate is real estate, and getting into those sort of things in real estate, that's where you can create good content. That's my opinion. Now, some people may want their show, like for you, technology. That's what that's your wheelhouse. And there's a sexiness about technology that realtors, want to know. How to promote themselves, how to do. There's a lot of I almost kind of lunch and learn kind of deals. where you can take a subject and put that into a 15, 20-minute segment and really teach somebody a lot of things that they may not have already known. And that's sexy too. The podcasts that some of the ones that I've listened to that teach about, hey, this top agent in California did $30 million last month in sales and blah, blah, blah. You really got to start to ask yourself, what purpose is your podcast? Because if your purpose is to promote other realtors, then really I start to question whether or not you should even have a podcast. If you have a radio show, okay. I understand that. But podcasting is a little bit different. My thing on podcasting, and this is just my take on it, when I hear those how to help realtors and things like that, there is a place for that. There's a training place for those. But the host of that podcast, I'm thinking, what are you getting out of that?
Right. Unless you're someone like me or maybe like Greg that is actually trying to do that as part of your business. Yeah.
If you're doing like a business thing, then fine. But I'm not even talking about the tech side. Like you're teaching realtors how to use.
I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying. People do it and see, the only thing I would argue with that is, I think you're making a good point, because you look at Facebook. What do realtors do every time they get a Facebook business page? They invite 300 other closest realtor friends.
Right.
Who the heck are you marketing to?
Right
now, you are working on a referral business, and that is where you want 100% of your business coming from. Okay, you're nailing it out of the park. You have picked your niche, and that's what you are doing. But most people don't do that. They're not trying to get referral business. One, that takes a long time to incubate.
Right.
But two, really the consumer out there is your neighbor, is your friend down the road, is your business partner that runs the major franchise downtown. Right.
I'm sorry. Mute on me there.
I did. It was better cough in your ear. So, to me, those are the things that you got to keep in mind. And I think you nail it right in the head. If you're sitting there saying, oh yeah, by the way, hey, realtors, think about this, or hey, realtors, what's going on with that Apple thing? Okay, well, you're already talking to the wrong avatar. You're talking to the wrong person that does not need to be in this conversation right now. You got, again, think about who your client is. I think that you nail it perfectly. Who is the person you're trying to attract? Now, on the same token, I agree with you, because what you don't do, I listen to your podcast. What you don't do is say, okay, by the way, interest rates are 2.5. This is this for a 15-year, because that's boring.
Yeah, it's boring.
The thing I worry about for realtors is two huge factors, and this is why I say I don't know if realtors should do it or not. Mm-hmm. And it's a time versus effort thing, right? How long from recording your podcast? How much time does it take from recording your podcast to editing to publishing it? Does it take you to do all together? And I would even say building the content ahead of time. So add the content development side of it as well.
It takes time. There's no question about it. It depends, I guess. So when I first started out, I did a lot of editing. So I was always editing, and I was fearful of, well, that didn't sound right, or that sentence, I used bad grammar, I did this. And so then you go and edit all this stuff. Then I came to the realization, I'm like, that's fake. I don't care anymore. I'm just going to record it, and I put in what they call bookends. So I pre-recorded an intro, I pre-recorded an exit, and then I would record the center, the meat and potatoes of the podcast, and then I would put 2 bookends onto it, and then call it a day. Now I'm getting to the point where I just record it, and then I'm done. I do it all in one take. And if it's messed up, it's messed up. Again, there's a little bit of an entertainment value to being messed up, and it's more when somebody has earbuds in their ears and they're driving down the road, or they're working out, or they're jogging, or riding their bike, or sitting in the airport. I think there's an element of unscripted, I guess, that I think is a little bit attractive in the podcast world. Trying to sound too scripted, trying to sound too robotic, I think you can lose people. That's my opinion. But when you listen to like some of the podcasts that are like Serial or some of the other ones, those as far as a script goes, I get why there's a script on there. But when you listen to like Adam Carolla or some of they're unscripted, right? And it comes across better. So that's the thing where you've got to listen to, you've got to know where your audience is at, or where you want your audience to be, and how you want to be perceived. All those sort of things kind of play into the development of the podcast. But right now, it takes me from the research and reading the articles and doing everything that I need to do to prepare for the podcast. It's probably a good, at least when I combine everything together, 3 hours probably, maybe longer.
Right. And for realtors, right, I mean, that is time better spent probably prospecting, quote unquote, depending on what business you're at and who you're coaching from, right?
Right.
Now, the other thing I would say is you're saying it takes you 3 hours, but you're really doing no editing. Please keep in mind, realtors are typically very high I person. They're either a very high I or a very high D personality from a disc profile, which either means that they're going to worry about how they look, feel, and appear at all times.
Yeah.
Or they're going to say, just get it done. Now, the high Ds can knock a podcast out of the world because they're just going to do what you're doing. You know what? It is what it is. It's who I am. Forget it. Either you're going to like me or you don't, and I don't really care.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That 3 hours will be what it is. But for a high I, they may never get that first one out because, that sounded horrible.
Well, that's what I was saying.
I rubbed my nose the wrong way.
And that's why I was saying you got to determine whether or not you, personality-wise, can fit into the mold of doing a podcast. When I first started doing my podcast, even I'll I'll share a little secret here. I did my podcast in my closet. I came out of the closet with my podcast.
There's a lot of people started that way.
So I started in my closet, literally, because the sound quality was good, right? I had the clothes hanging up and, the sound, I thought the sound would sound better because I have tile in my house and it was kind of echoey and like, oh man, the sound quality, I got to get the sound quality better. And so I did it in the closet and I would sit in there and shut the door. I'd get sweaty armpits. Because I'm like, oh man, did I say that right? Did I not say that? I start second guessing myself and you become your own worst critic when it comes to this. And if you're of the personality where you're just going to beat yourself up all day and have to redo and redo and redo, you're going to get turned off from doing podcasting or any type of broadcasting very quickly. So personality has something to do with it. You got to kind of just not care. Just put it out there. And there is a certain thick skin you're going to have to play with. Yeah, there's going to be haters out there, and then there's going to be people that love you because you are original or because you don't really care so much. I mean, be professional, of course, but not to the point where you overanalyze this either. Paul, you gonna let Paul in or? I just saw that. I was looking. All right. Sorry, I wasn't even paying attention to that bottom one. Yeah. Hey, Paul, how are we doing, sir? Oh, if you're talking, we can't hear you, bud. Yeah, you're muted there, Paul. I don't know what's going on, buddy. So, knowing your personality, Paul, but in a second we're going to kill you here because we don't hear anything. Yeah, I got to fix that audio there, Paul. I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, knowing your personality, and then once your personality, have your personality fit your show a little bit. If you're kind of a wild, crazy kind of realtor, and you grab your surfboard every day and you go and surf every day and then you do real estate in the afternoon, well, then maybe have subject and content that's kind of evolved or revolves around your lifestyle because it'll be more comfortable for you. In other words, don't try to be something you're not just because you have a podcast. Yeah, no, I agree. So that does bring up the next question. So, content is king, and obviously that is the biggest part of what you have to figure out from a real estate business. I don't think stats are the worst idea in the world, but they are definitely not the best idea from a podcasting perspective because, man, would that be just extremely, extremely horrible to listen to from a daily basis or a weekly basis or even a monthly basis. So let's talk about ideas or what you think might work from a realtor's perspective on kind of conversations and topics that they need to be trying to answer, right? What should they be doing or how should they go after? How should they look for their content rather? Well, so here's a couple of things. I got a lot of, this is kind of what I do. But I also try to think outside the box a little bit, right? So you don't want to be like other podcasts. You want to be a little unique or whatever. There are some podcasts that I've seen that are real estate related. One does like motivational quotes, a quote of the day or something like that. It's like a 2-minute podcast that he does. and it gets actually quite a few views, and it's not very long. It's like I said, it's 2 minutes long. So you could, as a realtor, you could do like, if you did a weekly podcast, you could do one on the stats for your area. Quick rundown of what's happening in your area. Something real quick, because it gets boring when you get too involved with it.
Right. For me, realtors is going to be 15, 30 minutes. You want to think drive time, right? So it's got to be quick hitters.
I'm thinking even less than that. There's something it's kind of like Twitter where you have 140 characters. You could actually do a podcast that's no more than 5 minutes long.
Audio.
Your 5-minute segment. We
hear you this time.
All right, cool. So you could do a podcast that's 5 minutes. Don't think about when podcasts get really long, you better have good content within that podcast. I try to keep my podcast to 20 minutes or less. That's what I try to do. Doesn't always work. I try to think of them as like a 60-minute segment, and which means though that you have to get into the subject and get out of the subject quickly. Make your point and get out. Don't beat a dead horse, for lack of a better way of putting it. Sometimes we try to overanalyze, try to over-explain something from many different angles rather than just saying it and then leaving it. And in podcasting, it's really easy to over-articulate a particular subject. So now, this is the thing that's really hard for everybody, because I even have some realtors who've approached me through Twitter saying, "Hey, Jason, I'd love to be on your show. What can we talk about?" And I said, "Well, what would you like to talk about?" "Well, I don't know. I need some direction here. What do I do?" So because we're in it every single day, we take things for granted, and you got to dumbify things. You got to bring it down a little bit when it comes to your subject matter. So speak to the people as if they don't know, like they're kindergartner people. I'm not saying downgrade them or anything like that, but think that you're talking to your child and you're explaining how to, why not to touch a hot stove. Bring it down in real estate and look around in your community and talk about the things that are happening in your community, whether that be, local news. I see stories on local news all the time about real estate and what's happening, whether that be a broader scope nationally. There's plenty of subject matters there nationally to talk about, whether that be talking to local home builders, getting their perspective on the local market, why they're building in a particular area over another area. These sort of things all create subject for you. So those are the things that I would suggest as a realtor to talk about. Some of the things when you talk to your clients, what are they asking you? What are some common thread questions that clients are talking to you about? Whether you should do a lease purchase, or should you rent, or should you actually purchase? Is a condo a better buy than a single family home? Going through the pros and cons of all these sort of things, that's all subject matter. And those are things that people
only be real estate related, or do you talk about community stuff? And do you talk about? I know there's one podcast group that's on the park. They're not even realtors, but I love the idea. They're just talking about local events in the area and meetups and things like that.
Yeah, you could do that. I've thought about interjecting those. I haven't done that yet. But see, it depends on your subject matter, right? Or what your goal is. So if your goal is to be a resource for the community about community events, then that you can have a segment in your podcast. So I've even experimented with the first 5 minutes. We talk about, let's say, local events, things happening this weekend, things to check out, balloon events, art shows, whatever the case may be. After that 5 minutes, cut it, get into your subject matter. And then afterwards, you can maybe do like a showcase. I thought about doing this with realtors where we say, okay, let's showcase a neighborhood and let's talk about that neighborhood for the next 10 minutes.
Okay.
So you can segment even like the 20 minutes. You can take 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 10 minutes, or whatever, 8 minutes, or, however you want to break it down, 7 minutes a piece, and segment it that way to where you have a complete show. That's hard to do, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That's really hard to do, but you could do it. Right. So that's the beautiful thing about podcasting. There's so many different things that you can do within the podcast to create it and make it your own, and create that little bit of entertainment. Like when I first started this, a lot of realtors were like, "Hey, you got to be funny. You got to say something funny because nobody's going to listen if you're not funny." I'm like, "Look, man, I'm not Chris Rock here. You know, I'm not, and our subject matter is not funny." A lot of cases,
especially the last 5 years.
Right. It's not funny. It's hurtful. It's painful. Right. So I guess, it's all dependent upon what you want and what you're trying to do as far as that goes. But there's so many different creative things that you can do. So Trulia is another place that I go and I look at questions on Trulia or Zillow and try to find like common threaded questions in there. Can you buy a house with a 580 credit score?
Right.
Talk about those sort of things. And maybe how to put your best foot forward when making an offer on a home, how to win the bid. That's subject matter to talk about. All those, there's so many different things that you can talk about as a realtor that people don't know about and want to know about. But because we live it every day, we just forget about it. We get immune to it, I think, a little bit.
Cool. So, Paul, you say you got a question. I'm sorry, man. You caught us in the middle of a big rant. So,
yeah, sorry about that, man. I didn't mean to.
I don't know what kinds of questions you're taking. Basically, this is a case study about a condo I own in downtown Austin and a 15-acre tiny home community that I'm developing about a half an hour east of downtown Austin, and also about a large intern house that I'm building for interns at the Hyatt Hotel. It's 2 properties, one's in the country. I mean, are you entertaining case study questions like that, or is that not relevant?
Well, you always got to be careful with case study, especially for both of us, because he's out of Arizona, I'm out of Illinois, so we won't always know Austin real estate rules and what goes into that environment. I mean, I'm happy to try to answer a question, but if it becomes outside the purview of what my legal knowledge is, I can answer very
There's
little.
no rules because we're basically in an area that's outside any extraterritorial jurisdiction is the word I'm looking for. So basically, we're not in a regulated area. We don't have zoning. We don't have housing codes. We can build anything we want. So it's not a regulatory question. It was just, you want me to lay it out for you?
Yeah. What is the question?
Okay. The question is, what would be the best approach to a group of investors offering me $1.8 million to develop a tiny home community outside of Austin, consisting of 24 homes? And some of the issues I'm facing are, should I invest in it myself? I told them I might be interested in putting like $300,000 of my own money into the venture as a matching fund to get it started. Is that a good idea? And what is the way I could get the best deal from these investors? How would I structure it? Would I lease them the property? Would I sell them the property? Would I be a partner in property? What do you think?
Well, first of all, we were doing this blab based on podcasting and real estate, so we weren't really prepared to answer questions about what you should do as far as an investment standpoint. Or present to investors. So that's throwing us for a little bit of a loop there. I got to be honest there, Paul. I'm not one to give advice on that particular matter. So I would be of no value to you there.
The best thing I can tell you to do from that perspective, and again, it's going to be kind of and we're in the political time frame, it's going to be more of a political answer. I recommend when you ever talk about anything in an investment arena and you talk about that from an investor, you want to find that are not involved in this transaction, local investor experts that are in your area that can give you directions and steps to go for. I don't deal with investment properties a whole lot, so I'm not going to be the best person to answer that question for you. But I know Austin has plenty of little meetups and locations where you can have those questions. Or, better yet, if you can find a realtor that specializes in investments, they're going to work with you because it's going to be in their advantage to work with you down the road.
Okay, that's a great idea. I think I'll take that. I'll pick up that ball you just dropped in my court and I'll run with it. You guys are doing a
That
great
sounds
job.
good.
Maybe I'll do a podcast about our development.
There you go. That would be fun to listen to.
Beautiful, man.
About it. Hey, I'm going to jump out. Thanks for letting me in, and have a great day, you guys.
Thanks.
We're out.
All right, you too,
from
Paul.
Austin, Texas.
That's a state I would not mind living in.
Yeah, Austin's
it's a good question. Those are good. But see, now, here's the thing with that. We're talking about that. That question couldn't have been better timed as far as I'm concerned, because I think those are the things that are huge for realtors to understand.
Yeah.
You could be an investing realtor and just have conversations about investments and then have a Q&A session and bring these things up, right? Again, it was not what we're talking about, but I think it gives a prime example, luckily enough speaking, for what we're talking about. There is plenty of topics that you can cover and do things. If you run with it, you're gonna have a good day with it.
Now, here's the thing too, that I will say that I do with my podcast that really has made me a better professional. And that is, I do the research on it prior to talking. I may think I know the subject matter very, very well, but I always further that a little bit more by doing some research, some local, not local, but relevant current topic headlines, if you will, that are related to what I'm going to talk about on the podcast. So, Google's my friend when it comes to that, right? And you can't always believe what you see on the internet. Of course, I get that. However, what I think I know that I learned 5 years ago may not be relevant today. So you've got to do a little bit of a refresher on the matter. So if you're going to talk about investing, for example, do a little refresher on that. Don't automatically assume from your days 20 years ago that investing is still the same today as it was 20 years ago.
Oh, definitely not, right? I mean, and that's everything, right? I laugh because, I'm trying to build training material almost on a daily basis right now. And I'm actually getting myself a little concerned about this because my stuff is technology. Well, shoot, by the time I get done building a video, it could already be wrong. Right? And that's the same thing with a podcast. The nice thing about podcasts, though, is even if that is true, that as soon as you get done with one, it could already be wrong.
Yeah.
You got new material for the next time.
Yeah,
by the way, here's a correction.
Totally. Absolutely. And that's why I was saying that and if you're going to do a podcast like a weekly podcast, there's a dedication. That's a marriage, right? So what I try to do, and there's a lot of things that I don't do. I'm not the norm, right? So a lot of guys will say, hey, I post my podcast every Thursday at 8:00 in the morning. Subscribe and do. I don't do that. Unfortunately, my schedule just doesn't allow for me to do that. So I put the podcast out as I can. Now I do it once a week. Sometimes I'll do it twice a week, but on a regular basis, it's pretty weekly that I put out a podcast, which means then I have to plan my weeks accordingly. So on Sunday, when I'm sitting there watching football, I'll be reading some articles and commercials to get prepared for my podcast that I'm going to record on Tuesday. And if
do you record weekly then?
I try to, yeah, sometimes twice a week.
So I hear a lot of people, what's his name? John Lee Dumas is a huge podcaster, right? And he does a 5-day-a-week podcast, which is, oh my word, I'm thinking that it's cool to listen to him, but I'm sitting there going, dude, you're nuts, because that's a lot of work.
Well, he gets paid handsomely to do that.
He gets paid well for what he's doing, right? He gets rewarded very well for what he does. Yeah. But my thought was, and you tell me if I'm wrong with this, or do you think the freshness is a better strategy? My thought is, I'm going to pick the first Monday of every month. I'm going to record. That's going to be my recording day. I'm going to do research throughout the week, have that start throughout the month, have that stuff out there. I'm going to record. I'm going to use things like Libsyn or something like that, and I'm going to pre-plan my podcast. So I'm going to have them all, edit them. Then they're going to go out every Monday or every whatever day. I don't care what day it is necessarily. And they're just going to go out because that topic's going to be out there. And then I got next month's worth of topics. And, and I just keep planning monthly because that way I can plan the rest of the month for prep as well as what everything else I have to do. And I'm only losing one day and not 5 or 4 days a week. Mm-hmm. So give me your thoughts on, kind of prepping and what you think is a better strategy. Should it be weekly? You're fresher with the topic, or is it okay to kind of bulk them out, so to speak?
I think weekly's good. I think that there's more than enough material. You got 52 weeks in a year. You got 52 subjects that you got to pick for the year. If you go monthly, here's the challenge with monthly. Not saying it can't be done. You can do it, but you may lose audience because it's not as frequent as they may want it. And on top of that, you're not going to get the feedback as quickly.
Let me correct what I'm saying so you understand. I'm saying weekly no matter what. I think weekly is the right time frame. So you push them out weekly. What I'm saying is you typically record weekly and post weekly. I am saying I want to record one day a week for 4 or 5 podcasts. So it's going to go out weekly. So, every Monday of that month or every Monday of that week is going to, or, 5 Mondays for the month of March, I'm going to have 5 podcasts, but I'm going to record them.
I gotcha.
February 28th or whatever.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any harm in that.
So so my question is bulking them out, just hammering them out and then letting them just go out when they're ready, when you schedule them to go out, or do them like you're kind of doing from a freshness perspective. You're going to record, publish, record, edit, publish, record, publish.
I don't think there's any harm in doing what you're doing, depending on the content that you're going to provide. I don't think there's any harm in that. For me, I get a thought in my head when I'm taking a shower. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to do this like right now, or else I'm going to forget about it. Right. I do it. Right. So I'm not of the personality where I can do it, record, sit down for 8 hours and record or whatever it is, and record, 5 or 6 episodes. That's just not my personality. So it doesn't work for me, but if it works for you, I don't think there's any harm in that at all. So long as the material that you're recording and you're going to, put out there on a scheduled basis is relevant. It's not so flash in the pan kind of thing. So if you're going to talk about news topics, you want to get it out there as quickly as possible, related to real estate. If you're going to talk about tech and stuff like you do and your expertise, then there's probably more of a grace period there to getting that information out there. But if you want to have breaking news about Apple, for example, or Google Play or any other kind of app that's getting ready to be released, that strategy may not work. Probably. Yeah,
and that's where I play with things, right? So you got a busy 2-3 months coming out there from my perspective, from a technology perspective.
Yeah.
Samsung Unpacked comes out this Sunday. So, do you throw a quick little podcast out saying, well, here's what I saw on this, just a 5-minute hitter.
Right.
Or do you just put it out there and say, okay, well, it's the 6th in line, so it comes out in the middle of March and now all that stuff's dated.
I think throwing the 5-minute thing out there, Justin, is a great idea, because you can have your call to action in the podcast saying, hey, more to come on this subject matter more to come on Samsung Unpacked as I get more involved with it. But you can have your teaser in there so that it can continue, but you're getting the information out, therefore making yourself relevant for current events.
Right. And I agree with you. I'm kind of setting you up for the questions. I'm trying to anyway. Because I think that's the things you got to think of as from a realtor, right? Because, from realtors, I from a realtor perspective, if I was coaching a realtor on how to do podcasting right now, it would be one simple thing. Pick one day a month. You're going to record 5 podcasts that day because you're just going to spend that day doing it. Because if you try to get them to do it every Monday to record a podcast, they're going to find excuses by the time the 6th one comes around because life's going to get in the way.
Yeah, it's hard.
But on the same token, what you don't want to do is have, NAR or the government come up with this huge governmental change that affects things today and say, I'll get that in the 7th or 8th week from now. Right. And say, just be quick about it. Have a hitter out there. Have something that says, by the way, we're going to get into more details about this, but I just want you to be aware of what's happening. It just came down the pipe. I want you to know it and be that expert. And that's what I worry about.
Like Greg says here in the chat, it's got to be fun, right? It's fun. I enjoy it too. I mean, I have a great time doing my podcast. At first I was very nervous and very, very sweaty palms and like, oh my God, am I doing the right thing? Do I have the right vision? All that kind of stuff. But then after you do it and you get done, and every time I have a guest on, I said, hey, did you enjoy that? And they're like, yeah, that was fun. It is a lot of fun. And it does, it just makes you feel good, I guess. At least it does for me anyways. So it really works well. And that's the thing. That's a key point here. You got to have fun at doing it. It's a lot of work. No question about it. You got to put the effort into it. You got to put the time into it. But once you do that, it becomes fun. And then all of a sudden you become relaxed and it becomes more natural and everything starts to kind of come together at that point.
It is. But you also got to love your subject matter. Like you guys obviously can talk forever about what you guys do. I mean, shit, I'm sitting here taking notes.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I'm backlogged on your damn show. In your last podcast you guys did last week, I really enjoyed the subject matter on it because it's a talk I have to give on March 2nd about how relevant agents are going to be in the future. So,
yeah,
it's good stuff.
Only 5%.
Only 5% relevancy?
No, I'll only take 5%.
Oh.
5% of the content.
Yeah,
that was a good topic last week. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really is. But I put a link in there. Justin, you took a look at it. It's called Anchor. If people want to do short little things, it's anchor.fm, and you can go in and you can basically put the phone up to your head. Just take the phone and like this, and you can record or listen to podcasts or live streaming radio that people create about different areas. So like you're just saying, do a short, like 5-minute video or something like that. This might be a great opportunity for them. People can carry it around.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's some value in. Here's the other thing too that I think we don't put enough emphasis on. When I watch these like Law and Order and some of these like shows, and I've been in courtrooms too for traffic or whatever. And I'll never forget when I was in traffic court, my attorney went up and talked to the judge and then came back to me and said, "Hey, you're good." And I said, "Well, what the hell did you say to him to get me off that traffic ticket?" "Oh, that's between he and I. We go way back."
Wow.
And I thought to myself, I'm like, there's some value. I'd like to be a fly on that wall to hear what you guys talked about. And so, because it just fascinated me hey, you got me off like in 2 seconds. I just paid you like $300 and it took you like 5 seconds to get me off this ticket. You just made a boatload of money for basically what I perceived to be nothing. So I guess the point of that story is that I think there's a lot of value in hearing consumers hearing what you're thinking as a realtor, or maybe a conversation that you're having with other realtors about the market. I think there's a lot of value in that.
There is. I mean, you're also, like you said, you're being perceived as an expert, and that's where a lot of folks, they just don't know where to turn for information. So if you're able to build the content, go to homesnap.com, go to neighborhoodscout.com. I mean, 2 simple, easy sites, and you can gain the information like that and be able to regurgitate it out, and boom, you're done. I mean, 2 minutes to read it, 3 minutes to regurgitate it. There you go.
Right.
It's
like I said too, with your consumer base, ask them, what I saw one video in one thing that I thought was fantastic, and this is maybe a little bit more advanced than the starting your podcast. But a realtor went out to a park locally and asked people walking up and down the park, walking their dogs, what is it that you look for in a realtor?
Huh. That's interesting.
And I thought that was fantastic.
Wow.
Idea, right? And they just recorded that and did a video of it, and then they kind of sold themselves on if you're looking for these sort of qualities, I'm here to tell you that I can provide these qualities for you. But it came from other people and what they were looking for. And so you could go to other people and say, "Hey, ask your friends, what is it that you look for in real estate?
Yeah.
Where would you like to see real estate?" That's all subject matter because it's coming from people who aren't involved in real estate every day.
So it's kind of like the angel effect, instead of you saying, "Okay, hey, this is Greg McDaniel with Bob and Sue who just sold their home. It was a great experience, and I just want to thank you guys for coming on and working with us, blah, blah, blah." Okay, not very awesome. But if I give it to Justin and his wife, and I'm like, "You guys mind making a quick video about your experience?" "Yeah, hey, we worked with the McDaniel Callahan team. They were amazing. All the accolades, yada, 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 yada. Definitely give them a call. Take that post, reconstitute it around." That's epically powerful, and that's exactly what's happening down on the man on the street kind of a thing with like, "Hey, what are you looking for in a realtor?" Which you've kind of inspired me now I'm going to go put together that clip.
Yeah,
we want an agent that's a complete D-bag. Delete that video clip.
Here, I'll find you the video that was done. It's in Google Plus, and I'll post it here in the chat room. The other thing too that I think is very powerful that I don't think enough realtors do is that you can have your prior customers send you, call you and leave you a voicemail. Remember, that's recorded audio. You can take that recorded audio and then repurpose that on your podcast of testimonial. So have your clients give you a testimonial on your phone. You can then download that onto your computer or whatever, and then use that as part of your podcast as well.
Very interesting. Well, you guys can also use that for you as well, for your show, like you guys are doing right now. Like, hey guys, this is what Steve said from Atlanta. Play it, right? Could you do that?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I've done that with YouTube videos as well. If I see something on YouTube, I've played that audio in the podcast. Like I did one on Julian Castro when he spoke about affordable housing. And took that clip and put it onto my podcast.
I like that idea. I'm gonna start doing that on my podcast. Absolutely.
There's tons of stuff on YouTube. Even if you want to say, "Hey, this is what not to do," right? And you can give examples of what not to do. So there's all kinds of different subjects right there, right in YouTube.
You mean my podcast should not be a biography about myself?
Oh, but it's so interesting. I know everything about the subject matter. I can do research all day long.
I'm the local expert.
Yeah, I don't even have to do research. That's actually really funny. Oh my God. Right. You guys are doing a good job.
So now this and I encourage you, especially you, Greg, in Google Plus, go to in communities, go to the best of real estate videos.
Heading there now.
This guy who hosts this here, who's the owner, I guess, of this community, he's right here, John Wake. He's with HomeSmart. He's right here in Phoenix, Arizona. And Kristen Levanway, I posted, you'll see it at the top there. I said, way to go, Kristen. Couldn't have said it better myself. Funny. She does a great job with her videos. And she's had over 20,000 downloads. And one of the subject matters that she did was how to, and this is when short sales, I think were big news. Mm-hmm. She did a video, which could be a podcast as well, about how to, what was I forget the name of the title. I don't want to get it wrong, but it was something along the lines of how to win the bid on a short sale or something like that. Or how to get your short sale accepted or something like that, coming from the buyer side or the seller side, excuse me. So that sort of thing that we kind of get accustomed to, that's subject matter. Bingo, right? She does a great job with it.
So I'm in best of. Where do I go now?
Go to communities and then click on or search out best of real estate video. Here, I'll put the link here for it in the chat here for you.
See if I can find this.
So if you click on that link, it should take you right to the community. I don't know if you gotta, but this is a great website resource for realtors to see what your competitors are doing. Because there's some really creative videos from real estate agents on here. There's some bad ones too, but there's some good ones.
Hey, you can learn all sorts of ways, right? What to do and what not to do.
Yeah. Some realtors are spending good, big bucks. They're like full-fledged, like commercial kind of things. But that's a subject matter right there, right? Do you need high-end video quality to sell your home? There you go. There's a podcast right there.
I don't think you don't need the full-blown, production budget. I mean, I think, this is my opinion, of course, the kind of grittier, the rawer, the more real, the authentic, personality and the style, people resonate with that. That's why, like us right now, we're live around the world. It's not all glammed up. I mean, we're all sitting in our independent offices, and whatever comes out of our mouth is coming out, and they can't edit it. Well, God, that right. Sometimes that's not a good thing.
Yeah, no. I totally agree. It just is that, but people don't understand. I don't think. When you're going to a listing appointment, some people are of the mindset, oh, you better have this full-on production. It better be Bravo TV style, blah, blah, and you got to educate people a little bit that that's not the only element here that goes into selling your home.
Yeah, it's one element.
Right.
The element. But, I mean, you could use Animoto walking out the front door, take some photos, ask permission. Obviously you're doing your CMA, take the photos of different parts of the house, upload them into Animoto, create the sound and the style of video that you want to do, and then have a couple of standard clips in there with your contact information, with your Cal BRE for California's, needs, and then your brand, and say, the last one would be, I can't wait to be working with you, and send it to them. That's just, down and dirty and quick, but yet incredibly effective, because they see video, they hear music they like, they see a slideshow of their house, and it happened within, 10 minutes of you walking out that front door.
Right.
I mean,
I'm gonna get another one here for you.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was a great idea, and this will give you some ideas on. Let me hit mute on this. This is on YouTube, but this is one that was on that Best of Real Estate.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great video that somebody did about New York City and just a local community in New York City, which I thought was a great real estate video. When we're selling lifestyle and you're talking about lifestyle, if you're wanting to do a podcast, this is a great way to get some subject matter.
So check. I know you guys already know about this, but I'm just going to post it up here anyways. Where's your link? There it is. Check this out. Give me your thoughts on this. This is called Videolicious. Kind of see what your take is on this. Is this a paid thing? Justin, you'd know this. Is it a paid thing or is it a free thing?
I think it's a freemium thing.
Freemium. I love freemium. Yeah.
So yeah, my understanding with this is I think they're lately have been giving it out, but I think the whole thing you gotta be careful of is, it has so many posts and then so many things, so many videos, and then it starts costing. Although I never remember what I saw for the price, but I don't think it was something that was like, okay, this is just not realistic.
Right.
But it was, it's a freemium model. I mean, almost everything's a freemium model these days.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna take the crack dealership strategy. We're gonna give you this for free until you can't not have it no more.
Here's your free taste. It's just this time it's free. Come on back if you want more.
Right.
Yeah, damn it,
Exactly.
I want more, and I have to pay now.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah, I just posted that link there to that video that I thought was done really, really well about asking people in a park. Check
Nice,
out that
only 3 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not very long, man.
got a lot of views on that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I am definitely going to pause that so I can watch that later.
Yeah, I thought it was a great idea, and you could take that 3 minute subject there, and you can elaborate on that and make that into a 10-minute podcast easily.
Mm-hmm. Or just go around to different areas in town. So you go to, I'll just use areas in my area like Walnut Creek, Danville, San Ramon, Lafayette, Pleasant Hill, and get different answers. I bet you get different answers in different demographics.
And that could be a whole episode in of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it takes a lot of work, right? Because you got to drive around, you got to hunt people down, and they got to make sure that you're not a creep or whatever, and they're not going to slap you or something like that. But it takes some work. But if you can do that, I think that goes a long, long way. And then taking that and repurposing it and putting it on your webpage as a player.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people come to your webpage, they may want to click on that and have it playing in the background while they're searching for homes or something like that. I think is a great.
So you're saying that I shouldn't wear camo and jump out of the bushes and say, "Hi, you want to do a video?"
Yeah, big trench coat.
Just let me videotape that part of it. And yes, I think go ahead, man.
There's a good chance I'll be arrested.
That's why I want to be the guy recording from back.
You need to wear your what's the workout guy from the 70s, man?
Oh my God, they do the short shorts and the fuzzy hair.
Yeah, dude, short shorts with some sneakers and stripes.
God. My dad actually owned those shorts and he loved wearing them, and it was a horrible, horrible experience
For everybody.
for everybody. God Almighty.
Silk shorts with their own built-in underwear. There you go.
No, please.
Oh, jeez, I don't. That's a bad image.
Justin's like, no more talking. You guys are discussing now.
It's a perfect time for me to say I gotta go. We're having a big family fun this weekend at a big indoor park. I live in the Arctic cold.
Wait,
so
did you say indoor park?
yeah, it's an indoor water park.
Oh, water park.
I know you guys, you warm weather people have no idea of these concepts, but since we live in real cold 6 months of the year, gotta find a way to have it fun in the sun without being the snow.
It was a frigid 62 yesterday.
Yeah, nice. There's days I really like you,
And this is just not one of them.
and this might not be it.
Hey, this is a realtor too that I follow here. I don't necessarily agree with what she's doing here, but she's got 111 views on this video.
Mm-hmm.
What's hard about being a realtor?
Oh, this chick.
And this,
I just saw her come up